What's up, guys? So today, I'm always working on like multiple projects at the same time, but today what I want to show you is the beginning of a project, which is portabilizing a Sega Genesis console. Essentially, I'm making a Sega Nomad, but it's going to be like a really sick Sega Nomad because it's going to have like a 6-inch screen. So I took a Genesis 3 motherboard, which I have right here, and I started to trim it down where you can actually see this is one of the pieces that I cut off. So I trimmed it down a little bit, and I trimmed off the controller port, trimmed off from here, and then I trimmed off the top to try to make the Genesis motherboard as small as possible so I can add a screen, add a battery, add speakers, add a power supply, and everything, and get it all working. And then right now I soldered one of my test cartridges to the back. The plan is if I finish this is going to be an everdrive, and then I'm going to like everything else, get a screen, get a power supply, everything. So I have it hooked up. When I cut this off, basically all this was the AV port, the switch, and then the voltage regulator. I cut all of that off, and then I just tapped into power right where the 5 volts of the voltage regulator went into, and then I soldered a PSP jack to it, and I'm using this PSP power supply. And when you plug in the power on the little test monitor over there, it turns on. It turns on because it still works, because I didn't destroy it, which is really exciting because this is the first time I've ever attempted anything like this. So that's really cool. That's really cool. And then basically right here, I just have a composite video cable set right there. And then it's grounded there, and then that's composite video. So I'm not exactly fully sure what I'm gonna do for like the rest of this project. I have a couple different ideas in mind where basically getting video to the LCD screen is like the biggest thing that I'm wondering. I could just get a composite LCD screen and then just, that would be very, very simple, but I want like a higher video quality on the screen. So I'm thinking of, if I get one of those Hyperkin Sega Genesis HDMI cables, that's essentially just pulling the RGB signal from the Genesis, converting it to HDMI. So I could open that box up, yank that board out, and then here I'll show you where RGB is on this board. So basically, you have all of the components for the Sega Genesis is basically on this chip. The CPU, the sound chip, everything. It's all right in here on this shrunken down Genesis 3. But this is the video encoder, and then these 3 pins right here are the RGB signal, and then they go straight to the AV jack. So I could probably just pull RGB from there, wire it to that Hyperkin board, and then wire that Hyperkin board to the HDMI of the driver board on the LCD. That's what I'm thinking. And that's what I'm thinking for that. And I actually ended up building this kind of recently. It's not pretty, but I just really wanted to make just an external wireless speaker. Plug anything in here, and then you can recharge it. So I'm gonna probably yank out this this sound amp, and that's what I'm gonna use to power the speakers. And I'm gonna get a different, I'm not gonna use that because this won't have enough power to power this entire thing. So I'm gonna get a different power supply board, and then wire it directly into 5 volts, use that to power the Hyperkin board, the LCD screen, and then also this little amp right here for this. So that's the project in mind. Now I was thinking, how else could I shrink this board down? Now if you notice, all of these traces go from here, they just wrap around and go to here and then go to here. So I'm thinking I could even cut this down all the way down and then just solder wires directly from here to here. So I can actually trim this. This is like a little like oscillator. I can pull that off, flip it upside down, and then just re-solder it. The reset switch can just get rid of. So this entire area over here can then also be removed. Right now it's 4 inches. This is 4 inches high, and then removing it right there would be like 3 3/4 inches or 3.5 inches. So trying to get it as small as possible because I'm gonna need a lot of room inside of the housing. So the reason why, and I also put on these surface mount capacitors to shrink it as much as I could height-wise. So that's just some of the things I'm thinking of for this project here. Obviously, all these weird types of capacitors that Sega used for the controller ports, I just cut that one off. Now this one, I'm just gonna have to trace these back and then write it down so I can solder the controller ports directly to those capacitors or to wherever they go on the board, and then I can cut that off. The reason why I didn't cut that off yet was to save that, because I didn't write it down. I don't want to cut it off yet before I know what I'm doing. So that's that for now. I want to trim it down as much as possible, and I still got to figure out what I'm doing for the video out. I'm pretty sure using one of those HDMI Hyperkin boards will be good, because that way I can get HDMI out and I can get like a 6-inch HDMI capable little LCD screen. And then, so that's this project. That's what's going on right there with that. The next step would be deciding which EverDrive I want. Do I want a bare bones $50 basic EverDrive? Do I want the $170 one that has save states, which if there's anything I learned about handhelds and portables, save states would be really nice for it. But then it's like, if I spend $165 on that EverDrive, I might as well just get the Mega SD and get Sega CD on there too for $250. So that's still up in the air of which one of those to buy. But then there's also the enclosure. So I downloaded Autodesk 360, which has a lot of different programs, and one of them I can use to 3D design. So once I get all the components together, everything built and working, I'm then going to take like poster board and kind of model out a fake enclosure. And then I'm going to use that poster board that I made the enclosure out of, and then I'm going to measure all of it perfectly, and then use those measurements to then help me 3D design a enclosure to then have somebody else 3D print. So that's the project and process, and all I basically did now is trim the motherboard and not kill it. That's all I really did so far. But I hope to continue it and do more. However, it's going to be rather expensive, so that was a multimeter that just fell. It's going to be a little expensive, so I need to finish this PSP project that I have going on. I was going to make a bunch of PSPs, do shoulder LED buttons, hack them all up with a bunch of games. I just created a lot of e-boots for them, and I was going to make a bunch of those and then sell them on Instagram. So what sucks is now I really want to do this Sega Genesis project. I want to make the portable, and I want to teach myself how to do that, but I can't until that's done. And I don't know, the motherboard trimming is really, really interesting, because it's like, how much can I cut off before the thing doesn't work? Like if you look at the controller port itself, basically, or cartridge slot, I mean, you can trace back every single one of these traces to here. So in theory, I could literally have just used Kynar wire and soldered the cartridge directly to this chip and then just get rid of all of that. But because this is my first one, I don't want to shrink it down too much, because I kind of want to play it safe. And that was very easy to do, actually having those ports right there, and it would be a lot harder to, solder them all to this chip. So that's why I'm thinking I'm just going to solder them to this chip and just shrink it down a little bit more. And I can probably get rid of a lot more of these components. I just am not exactly sure what I can take off and have it still function properly and perfectly, and probably not much more, because this is the Genesis 3 and it's really, really, really shrunken down in and of itself. So that's this project, and so that's basically everything. So I'm working on that, but like I said, a lot of the parts are expensive, so I got to put it on hold, finish the PSP project that I was working on, and I got a project just working all over the place. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited about this, so I just want to make a quick little video. And as I do more to this project, I'm going to make more videos about it, but this is like the planning process. There's a lot of things like going on in my mind as to like what I want to do and how I'm going to achieve this and try to make my first one ever be the best I can possibly make it. The reason why I'm starting with the Sega Genesis is probably because it's the easiest one possible. If you think about it, it was a tiny little motherboard to begin with, very minimal trimming, and then it's probably the easiest to start with. After that, who knows, maybe like a little PC Engine one. But I gotta learn how to 3D design so I can 3D design and print my own shells for them, which are hopefully going to be all modeled after the shape of the Vita, hopefully, because the mighty PS Vita is just, it's amazing. I've been meaning to make some Vita videos. All right, so I hope you guys think this project's cool, and I hope you back me on continuing to do it, because I'm going to continue to do it. So I hope you want to see more videos about it. All right, thanks guys very much for watching, and I don't know what the next video is going to be about. Maybe I'll think of some new project or something. Probably not. I got to finish those PSPs and make videos about those. The shoulder button LED mod's sick, so you'll see. All right, thanks guys for watching. I'll see you next time.